Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Robert Lyon, your favorite business coach, your favorite host. And today we have the great opportunity to talk to Aron Croft. He's a ADHD coach. He's just a really cool guy. He's got a large following on TikTok and YouTube. He went to Harvard. So Aron, why don't you kind of introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and kind of what you're up to?
Cool. Thanks, Robert. So good to be here. Appreciate it. I was basically like my life was on rails at 18. Thought I had it made, got into Harvard, and that basically just started a 15-year shit show of failures. Oh, sorry. Are we supposed to keep it clean? I can totally
No,
not swear.
please curse. It makes me feel better.
All right. So 15-year shit show of failures until at 33, I ended up broke, divorced, and earning minimum wage. And then really, my original coaching business was around how I rebuilt my life from that to a successful Fortune 500 career, getting remarried, and then, starting a side hustle, which now became my full-time gig. And then just recently in the last, few months, I've sort of repositioned what I was doing. Instead of just doing pure kind of ADHD coaching and running group programs, with five-figure launches, started helping other coaches and content creators and course creators who have ADHD to overcome those challenges and also do what I did and sort of, leave the corporate world and make this your full-time gig.
That's awesome, man. So I kind of want to live a little vicariously through you. So what was it like going to Harvard? I just picture you guys like sipping brandy and reading leatherback books and stuff like that. Well, what was the reality of actually going to Harvard and kind of what was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, so like a lot of like Sherlock Holmes-esque types and like a lot of like tartan and Burberry. No, it was honestly super intimidating.
Really?
Because the way I got in was I just am a naturally good test taker. I had a really good social support structure growing up, like older sisters who were also smart, like Jewish parents who forced me to like not goof off in school, and like really smart friends who would be like, "Hey, Aron, you want to study and then we'll play basketball?" I'm like, "Sure."
Nice.
And so I lost all that when I got to Harvard, and I still didn't know I had ADHD. I just thought I was like the lazy kid who like thought he was too good to like read a book cover to cover, because I didn't in high school, and like always read the Cliffs Notes and always did everything at like the absolute last minute, like in an utter panic. I just thought that it was like Aron's just like too cool for school, because that's what my mom said. But then I got to Harvard, and like there were all these smart people who like could just sit down and do shit. It was so intimidating.
I mean, that's kind of why I do this podcast. So I actually get to talk to smart people. So the fact you got to go to Harvard is pretty cool. I mean, I just think it's like a interesting. Well, also having ADHD and being able to get into Harvard and survive Harvard, man, that's like an accomplishment in itself if you think about it. Because I mean, my personal thing is like, I'm definitely ADHD, got, all the learning disabilities, whatever they all are, but I turned it into like a superpower. Basically, I got like so pissed off at just life in general that I basically had to force myself to start learning. And I used that as a launching pad to get me where I am now and all my successes and things like that. But in the beginning, reading just sucked, writing just sucked. Like it just wasn't my thing. I was a communication person and things like that. So I think that's pretty neat. So
no, I totally, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to ask you what'd you go to Harvard for? What was your degree? Is it psychology? I think I read that, right?
So I wanted to do psychology, which is really important for us ADHDers to kind of pursue what we have natural interest in.
Right.
But my mom had gone to college in like the 60s and stuff, and she said psychology is like a major, like psychology used to be like the whole like get like an art history degree. Like it was just the thing that like you got a degree in that like you couldn't do anything with unless you got a PhD, and like you just hated your parents afterwards. So my mom was like, "You're not doing psychology." So I did computer science.
And now you're a coach, so that's kind of more psychology, I feel like sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I completely went back to psychology. Like
Right.
completely went back. Yeah, I mean, you like it's an accomplishment to get through. Like short version is I graduated with a total of 3 years of credits because I had so many college credits from high school, and that included dropping out twice. So it took me 5 years to finish 3 years of college. So like that puts me on like the 6 or 7 year plan. So it was an accomplishment, but I wouldn't say it was a pretty accomplishment.
Yeah, it was Well, it was your upbringing though. It's still pretty badass that you managed to do all that. So now forward to today, what are you doing now and what's going to get you excited about what you got going on?
Well, what's really got me excited is, I was sitting there like 2.5 years ago now. I was sitting in this corporate job and I finally had like rebuilt my career. Like I was a senior manager at a Fortune 500 company, like whoop-de-woo, like putting on little fancy clothes every day and feeling all important. There's only one problem was that like it was just one of those things where like you're like, if I died in a year, I would have hated the choices that I'm making. I'm sort of making choices that are purely like, I'm making this choice because I'm planning to live for the next 20 years, but like, I'm actually not happy with what I'm doing. It doesn't fill me up. And yeah, so then my wife was like, well, why don't you just share people with like your ADHD hacks? I'm like, what ADHD hacks? She's like, you have a lot of hacks that you use, but like so much of like our natural gifts and the things that we can contribute are transparent to us because they're so natural to us and so just part of who we become that we can't see them, right? So anyway, she helped me see them. I started, was able to quit, and which I never thought I'd be able to do. And now this is like my full-time thing. I pulled in 6 figures in my first year, blah, 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 like whoop-de-woo. But now I'm just excited because I see that not only do other people struggle with the ADHD productivity, but there's a lot of ADHDers sitting in these jobs that they don't like, know they want to do something meaningful, know they want the time freedom that comes from the kind of work you and I do around being entrepreneurs, setting up your own business, but are stymied. Like they can't figure out how to get themselves to do what they want to do.
I'm more the opposite where I'll just do a billion things as hard and crazy as I possibly can, get bored and then jump ship and start a new thing. It's awful. It's a nightmare, to be honest with you. But it also is, it's taken me places that, I never would have imagined. And I've gotten to do so many different things and I've learned so much, so there's just so much. So there's 2 ways of questions that I kind of have for you. So like the first one is, do you believe people with ADHD should be, there's this word, it's called like a multi-potentialite, where they try and do all these different things? Or do you believe more like, the Sam Ovens thing, where like you just focus on one thing and you just have to force yourself to do it and you will get more success? What is kind of it come down to, or how have you been helping people, I guess?
Yeah. Well, so I guess one quick clarification to offer, Robert, is that with ADHDers, there's 3 kinds of ADHD. There's kind of the hyperactive impulsive, which is sort of the stereotypical type. Mm-hmm. There's combined, and then there's just inattentive type. And that's what a lot of women deal with. That's what the inattentive type is kind of just, you have trouble just getting stuff done that you want to get done, but you're not hyperactive. You're not a behavior problem. So you never really get diagnosed unless you're not causing problems. So you're much less likely to get diagnosed. So I don't know where you'd fall in that category, but
I could be all 3.
Do you know? Yeah.
No, I don't know.
Right. So you'd probably be the combined, right? Like you have some hyperactive impulsivity and so look, they all come with their benefits and challenges. But in some ways, the hyperactive impulsive presentation, like where you bring some of that, is actually an asset, right? Because a lot of the people I've worked with in that space, like you, will just get out and do a bunch of stuff. Right. Like, I knew some people that like got more done in a day than I've ever even dreamed of. They just had trouble kind of directing their focus on what they chose to get done. But they were like the most hardworking, productive people I ever met. Me and a lot of my clients are like super lazy. Like we get like a few hours of work done a day if we're lucky. In my experience, doing the multi-potentiate, or however you say that, doesn't really work for that crowd. I'm okay doing it as a experimentation, pilot, beta test, iteration process. Like, let me figure out where I can best contribute, but then as quick as possible, like narrow that shit down and really focus on those few things that you can do exceptionally well and free your focus up from the rest.
Right. So what's the word? It's like find your golden, your gifts or whatever it is, and then just focus on that. I mean, so I was counting the other day and I've started over 25 businesses, right? And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that it's like, it's ridiculous. So that means that I went from, this is going to be plan A all the way to plan Z. And I'm back on plan A now with another business that I'm going to launch and it's going to start. But as I've gotten older and I've kind of figured it out, it's like, I really just need to focus on one thing at a time. right? So in order to focus on one thing at a time, I just have to do all these different tricks and different hacks. I got to put like earplugs in or something. It's just like focus on one thing for one business. And also sometimes life will just beat you up. So you have to do things, you know what I mean? And that's when I get the most work done, is like the last minute, the dire moment of strengths or whatever. I'll finally finish a whole report or do whatever I got to do. So what are some hacks that you have found that helps people to be more productive and just kind of get things done as a ADD person, I guess?
I really break it into three pieces. So the neurotypical slogans, so I contrast them with the neurotypical slogans. The neurotypical slogans, right, that are very common, and everyone has their various versions, right, are things like, just do it, it's not that hard, no pain, no gain, right? And on the flip side, I sort of built this ADHD productivity model, which is basically people power, easy prevails, and pressure-free practice. So the idea is, on like the people power stuff, right, is our brains kick in when we have deadlines, when we have other people counting on something from us. And so literally, how do we then artificially create that in a way to support our goals? Because it exists by default in other people's goals, right? Like your spouse wants you to do something, your boss wants you to do something, your colleague wants you to do something. Like that exists because they make the request and then they hound you and follow up till it's done. But for your own goals, it doesn't exist by default because you're the only keeper of it, right? And so we need to artificially set up or create or find accountability structures, masterminds, coaches, other people who can hold for us those commitments so that we get the same, oh crap, I said that was going to happen to that person and I don't want to let them down, that we do on everyone else's goals.
That's so crazy that you say that, just because business coach, I've been doing it for years. But I would have these moments where I would kind of fall off and, I would get into the negative sayings of things in my head or whatever. And then I started doing sales instead of business coaching, right? So I veered off a little bit. And then I started doing sales for a business coach who wasn't that great of a coach, but I just wanted to kind of get back in the game. Yeah. And as soon as I started working with him, even though I was a better business coach than him, I started to light that fire under my ass. Like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. This is the thing that I have to do. So just having someone there, even if they don't do anything, he literally didn't do anything. He was a terrible business partner, but just having someone there who can at least just say, hey, let's just do this, go this direction, allowed me to just get 10 times more energy done just because I had someone to bounce ideas off of and kind of not necessarily hold me accountable or anything, but just have, I don't know why. I just needed somebody else there just to stand there and be like a random, like a blob that just told me sometimes ideas that I could talk to, you know what I mean? But as long as I knew where I was going, I was so much more focused and more just going in the right direction. So I think you're 100% right. So you would recommend find mentors, find coaching programs, find things like that. Is that kind of like one of the hacks that you found that has helped you, or is that what you're saying?
100%. Yeah.
That's cool.
Because what happens is, as I said, like everyone else's goals have default people power built in because the other person's going to bug you. And all the most important goals, your goals, don't have that built in, but it's really hard, especially like you at least get shit done, Robert, but like, especially if like, some of your listeners are kind of way less successful or effective than you are. And it's scary to set up an accountability structure with your spouse or your best friend or your colleague, because you're just going to give them more evidence that you suck at following through.
Yeah. I think you have to get out of your comfort zone. I think you have to have somebody who's a little more alpha, or I don't think alpha's the right word, but a little bit more ahead of you in a way. Whereas, because if I tell my girlfriend I'm going to do stuff, she's like, oh yeah, you've said that 25 times, we're not going to, I'll agree and go with it, but I'm not actually going to hold feet to the fire and stuff unless I have to, so that's a very cool one. You got any other tips, I guess? Cause I like being able to hear things from other people's lives.
No, totally. Yeah. So, I mean, the second one in that sort of model, right, is the alternative to no pain, no gain is easy prevails, right? So like James Clear in Atomic Habits references the law of least effort, which basically says that our brains are going to do the thing that takes the least effort. Like it's just natural. Like they're going to flow basically downstream, like whatever's downhill, easiest path. And so really just taking that opportunity to engineer our environment. Engineer our environment such that the things we want to do become easier to do, and equally, the shit we don't want to do becomes a lot harder to do. So look, I mean, you and I know that if you want to really get good focused work done, you can't have 50 like notifications going off. You can't have text messages and email pop-ups interrupting your flow. If you're trying to like, I don't know, script a YouTube video or do something, right? Like you're trying to do something that requires focus. You can't have all those, but sometimes it's just too tempting, right? So it's just how do we systematize? Which word is that? I think maybe they're both words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Systematize making the stuff we want to do easier, making the stuff we don't want to do harder to do. So setting up things like notification blockers, setting up do not disturb, setting up putting our phone away when we're doing work sessions. So just little things like it doesn't have to be hard. And the other part about easy prevails is tapping into the stuff that you intrinsically find it enjoyable and that you're just intrinsically good at, right? Like you're good at talking to people in sales, Robert. Like it's super clear, right? And like you're good at like big picture trying stuff. Like you don't have like you're willing to take risks and like take a bunch of action. You've accepted that and you've embraced it, kind of like that zone of genius idea, right? Like you're like, cool, this is my unique ability. I'm just gonna roll with this. But a lot of people think that they don't have permission to do that. And they think that things have to be hard because they've been hard their whole lives. And if it comes easy to them, then it doesn't count. If they can do it quickly, it doesn't count. And they think that it has to be a struggle, which is just not sustainable, for a business.
Well, also it's a mindset thing. Like if you think it's going to be a struggle, it's going to be a struggle. Whereas if you have like, this is going to be my North Star, this is what I want to do, you can convince yourself, or you can create like an alter ego that really loves doing stuff that you hate. That's kind of more advanced. Obviously, I don't think everybody's on that level, but I think it's a very interesting thing. With ADHD, it's like you really have to have a balance, because you can also, like, number one, if you have a good coach, right? You need a good coach, okay? Because some of the biggest mistakes that I've made in my life was because I wasn't 100% confident in something, and somebody told me to do something different than what I wanted to do. And that goes against ADHD. That goes against like everything. And like, that was one of the biggest mistakes I've done, is because instead of listening to myself, which I knew I should have done, I picked up somebody else's idea he was not a mentor. He was just a coworker. And I was like, okay, maybe you're right. We should go in this direction. And that was the wrong direction. Or I'll just use him as a scapegoat, you know what I mean? For it blowing up or whatever. But you got to have a good coach. Like you gotta have somebody who knows what they're doing, I think, because you can't just listen to everybody. And I think it also kind of comes back to like, if you don't have a plan, or if you don't know where you're going, or if you don't know what you like doing, then you're going to fall into somebody else's plan and you're going to end up doing what they want you to do in a way. So kind of an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, I love what you said there, right? So, and I think that a lot of people are still a little bit slow to catch up to this change, right? So there's this idea of information versus education. Pre-internet days, pre-explosion of the internet, like information was super valuable,
right?
Because it was hard to find. Where are you going to get it? Blah, blah. And a lot of people are still stuck in that pre-internet mindset. Whereas in reality, what all of your people want, all your listeners want, and everything, right, is they really want education. They don't want to just know stuff. They want to be able to do stuff differently. And, a lot of the old school stuff was just focused on information, right? Like, you just sort of like, oh, here's the information, pay $2,000 for it. But really, like, what people need now is there's too much information. There are too many things to do. What people need now is they need someone that can, one, help them on the education, support their transformation, not just kind of be like, oh, here's all things to do, but equally, kind of as you were saying, they need people to tell them all the things not to do.
For myself, I'm the person that has to go run headfirst into a wall and then find the door somehow. Otherwise, like, I got to do everything the hardest way possible, as opposed to just listening.
Oh yeah, totally same. Like super stubborn, but like all these people I've talked to are like trying to start a podcast, a Facebook group, an Instagram, run a bunch of lives on YouTube, get their LinkedIn going, figure out what their offering is, try to figure out their target customer, try to do this, and like like they're just trying to do too many things because they've read about all these things and they've heard about all of them and they've consumed them in free content, and
Right.
they need help figuring out what not to do in those areas. Like, okay, you know what? Why don't you put your LinkedIn aside for now? Because given your target audience, and why don't you order it in these ways? And you know what? Let's hold off on the Facebook group, or let's hold off on starting your podcast.
Yeah. Right. I mean, you should really listen to one mentor at a time too, I feel like, or one source of information. Like we were talking about, there's just so much information out there now. And it's just like, you can go down a rabbit hole at any time during the day, just randomly, because especially if you have ADD, you're just like, oh, I'm going to go learn e-commerce for the next 6 months and then not do anything with it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting. So then, I mean, you just have to pick your North Star. And I mean, sadly, like I said, I've done so many different things. Almost all those businesses I've sold, or they've just blown up in my face, or, I still have them and I'm still half-ass running them. And they're still sometimes making money and things like that. I've been having this epiphany. So, I mean, from sales and from everything else, it's like whoever has the biggest dream kind of wins in sales. And it's a kind of a marketing thing in a way. So, but if you can have a big enough dream, right? So I sold real estate coaching and I did all this other stuff for real estate. And the reason people loved real estate is because it's such a big dream. It's like, oh, I could have all these houses and make all these big money. And that would actually get a lot of people really motivated, though, to actually take action and to, want to quit their job and go where they want to go. So you need to figure out for yourself, what's your big dream, I feel like. And then you have to keep that focus, and you got to like write it down every day or every time you go to sleep, or put it on the background of your phone or something. Like, this is what I'm going towards, so that you can get rid of all the noise and only focus on going where you want to go. That's kind of the secret that I've personally found in order to not keep reinventing the wheel and doing all this other stuff. So, well,
it's tricky, dude.
It is tricky, man. It's just life. There's no real right answer. Everybody has to figure out for themselves, but having a good mentor, having a big dream, and then staying focused on it and just driving all out is kind of what I've found kind of works. You know what I mean? And it's working, and hopefully I'll get better and better and keep growing and keep getting better as it is. So, so now you kind of launched into this awesome ADHD coaching thing, and I want to learn a little bit more, like, how'd you start? And then, like, when did you kind of blow up on TikTok? Is that kind of how you got a lot of customers, or what was the recipe for you to get that business off the ground?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was a pretty crazy story. So like, I was sitting there, I think it was 2019, New Year's. I was doing some journaling exercise, and I actually did a journaling exercise, basically, which was like, if you were to die in a year, doctor told you that, like, what would you regret, or what would you do? And I was like, man, I would regret going to the grave with all of the, like, hoarding all the knowledge. Cause I've just been like, one of these like self-development, like nerds, like gurus, going to all the Tony Robbins, Stephen Covey, Brendon Burchard, like you name it. I've been into it. And, cool. And I was like, I'm going to go to my grave just having only just consumed it, right? Like not shared it with anyone else. Like it was just purely just selfish for Aron. And so that kind of lit a fire. I was like, all right, I want to start helping others, share what I've learned. It doesn't even have to be a business. I don't even care right now. I just want to do this so that, like, if I were to die, like, I wouldn't be like super regretful. And then after a few months, I was like, I can't do this. It's too hard. I gotta like quit my job. So like stormed into my office and saw one of my mentors, told him, and he was like, take a deep breath. Let's maybe you can find ways to do that in your job. Anyway, so he kept me from quitting, which was awesome. That was very nice of him because as you and I both know, like, this isn't like, very little of online business is like a get rich quick scheme overnight. Like it's a lot of trial and error. It's hard work. And so thank God he kept me from quitting on the spot, because I wouldn't be here where I'm at right now had I done that, because that would have set me up for failure. But he gave me the idea of like, why don't you just do this on the side effectively? And so I then just started prioritizing it as a side hustle. So I simplified it down to make videos. Mm-hmm. As long as I share what I'm doing, and sort of like Seth Godin says, right? Like, little kids make art for the sake of making art. They don't say, how am I going to get paid for this art? Like, they make it for the joy of making it. So I kept trying to tap into like, let me make this for the sake of making it as a way to contribute without trying to figure out where it's going to take me. But I know that if I contribute enough, like, good things will happen and I'll just enjoy it. And so I was posting on YouTube for like 6 months, And, I was getting like a little bit of growth. I think I hit 1,000 subscribers, which is like a pretty big deal in YouTube land, by like 5 months. And that was like hard ass work. And then Ali Matu, who has a YouTube channel with like 130,000 subscribers called like the Psych Show or something. He said, why don't you go on TikTok? Like if I didn't have so many YouTube subscribers, I would start on TikTok. Yeah. And then I just started like filming content on there, and like within a few months, I was at 30,000 subscribers. Everyone was like really digging my stuff. And then it grew to over 100,000. But when I hit the 30,000 mark, this was like shortly before my 40th birthday. And I had set the goal to quit the corporate prison by my 40th birthday. And so a couple weeks before that, I was like, I got 30,000 followers. I don't know how I'm going to make money, but I know if you have an audience, it means you can monetize it in some way. And so I gave notice and said goodbye to my multiple six-figure corporate salary.
Oh no. So was this around like, sorry, it was around like 2020 that you went viral on TikTok? So you might have got in pretty early.
No, it was March 2021. It was like
Okay.
a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that's
Not
when
quite.
it was real. TikTok was just like blowing up. Like you could get real good. So that's pretty awesome. Did you know that your niche was ADHD, like entrepreneur stuff when you first started, or did you just start making videos, or how'd that work out?
See, this is how I know you're a good business coach, because most people don't even necessarily think to ask that question, because they just assume that like a niche is thing you just kind of, do in
No.
like a 1 hour brainstorm session. But like you and I know that like yeah, exactly. That's not the process, right? So rewind. So TikTok was March 2021, which is like, 18 months ago, whatever, 17 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Rewind a year before that, when my mentor kept me from quitting, I started creating content. So started with book summaries.
Oh, nice.
And I made 6 book summaries and then quit doing that. Then I started a blog, published 21 articles in 21 days, and then realized that I still hated writing as much as I did in high school. Quit that. Then I started doing 21-day challenges and running 21-day challenges. So did that to stop drinking for 21 days, stop complaining, build my first online course, all that stuff. But then quit 21-day challenges after, a few months. And, it was really only at that time, about 6 months in, that I realized a lot of my articles were about productivity. But I had this really interesting conversation with myself and then with my wife, which was, what is it that I'm afraid to share? What is it that I'm afraid for people to know? And I would encourage all your audience to really ask themselves that question, because so much of what has people connect with us today on social media is that authenticity and vulnerability, because everyone's dealing with their shit, but very few people are willing to be authentic about that they're dealing with the same stuff. And so I started making a list, and it was like, oh, you know what? That I dropped out of Harvard twice before graduating 2 years later, right? Like it was things like that I have ADHD in the corporate world. It was things like that I was broke, divorced, and earning minimum wage, like not that long earlier. It was all that I'd failed on my first 7 jobs and businesses. And as I really talked through these and said, what's the worst that would happen if I went public with this, and really kind of put some thought into it. And I realized that a lot bad wouldn't happen. 2, I had answers for, if my boss found my social media posts. And I pre-scripted things, and all of a sudden that gave me the permission. So instead of saying things like, with ADHD, with productivity, like, oh, if you're kind of type B and lazy like I am, and you have trouble getting stuff done, I just got to be out front and be like, if you have ADHD and you struggle to get things done like I do. So it was sort of like I'd been talking about it in coded language, but I didn't even know that until I asked myself what I was afraid people would find out.
That's profound, man. I like that. So I mean, I don't know if I 100% agree. I mean, I thought I go through these phases, right, where I'm like, I'm just gonna be 100% authentic online, and everyone's gonna fucking see who I really am. And then I go back to just like, trying to be smarter than I am and act like I am. You know what I mean? So like, it's a fine balance. I think authenticity feels better and it's amazing, but sometimes you also have to put on a little bit of an alter ego and a little bit, you can't be 100% yourself all the time, I feel like, in some cases. So I agree with you that it has to be a thing, but also if you really want to become the next version of yourself, you kind of have to pretend to be that next version of yourself before you actually are there, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess social media, like if you think about it, who cares what social media thinks? You should be 100% authentic, but at the same time, acting a little bit, having an alter ego that is a little bit further ahead of you in life is going to pull you into that person that you want to become. So I think there's a little bit of a balance there.
I think that's a really good nuance, Robert. I'm glad you said that, right? Because I think you're 100% right there. So yeah, let's dissect that. I think the authenticity piece comes into simply just being willing to share our failures and our challenges and not pretend that, it's easy to just get riches overnight and that everything's just going to fall on you and you could do this 20-minute niche exercise and have your niche picked out for the rest of your life. Like, I think it's just, you know what, I tried this and you know what, I started these 25 businesses and, it's just, I think people know deep down that it's not as pretty as the glossy marketing stuff.
Right.
So I'm all fine with living into your future self. So I love that you said that. I love the idea of like, we're not just sitting there like, oh man, dude, I'm just like, I've been feeling like a terrible human all morning and I'm super, like we get on with stuff and like we show up the way we want to. But I think a lot of people are better at doing that, better at being, acting for the camera, social media, the way that they want to. And they're not as good at being like, you know what? I'm also a human. Yes, I'm further along the path than you on this thing that you want to achieve. Yes, I can help you. Yes, I have some expertise here. And I'm also like you in a lot of ways, right? I struggle with these same things, and I'm not going to pretend I didn't or pretend that like I'm so smart that I just got to skip those steps.
No, I agree. I think authenticity, I think it's a balance though. I think you're right. The fact of what you said before is share in what you're afraid of, like that's incredible. That's powerful. That's the hook, right? That's how you get people's attention. And then you can also go into a little bit more. But yeah, I think there's a balance. So I think it's pretty sick. Yeah. You blew my mind a little bit. So that's pretty cool, man.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I like.
I go for at least like 2 mind blows per conversation. That's my goal.
So I want to get weird and get into some TikTok strategies. So what do you think helped you kind of blow up, or what have you found works well for growing your audience now that you've picked a niche, right? I think there is so much power in the niches, you know what I mean? And everybody says it, nobody fucking does it, or at least I don't do it.
Yeah, totally.
But once you actually do get a niche, you're able to get so clear on who your audience is, your customer avatar, whatever it is, whoever you're talking to. I guess what has worked for you before I ramble on about what I think, because you've got 100,000 TikTok followers and you're doing good stuff, man.
I think there's some strategy and there's some tactics, right? So on the strategy side of things, again, this kind of goes into the same thing. So people are really good at creating what I would call authority content, right? Here's the 5 steps to do this. Here's the 3 things you should do to lose weight, blah, 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 blah. And, but what I find and then people find they might do some random trends and dances and stuff, but that says nothing about your value that you can bring to your customers that you're doing with your online business, right? Because that's who you and I work with. Where people I find tend to be weaker is in what I would call relatability content. And so it sort of dovetails with our past conversation around authenticity, but it's really this, right? If you take the premise that people aren't on TikTok to get educated, they're on TikTok to get entertained first. So you need to have edutainment, right? It needs to be entertaining first, and then then you can, slip in the vegetables of education. And so what does that look like in the relatability side of things? Well, one of my favorite hacks for relatability is kind of along the lines of what we just talked about, but brainstorming what are the secret thoughts, behaviors, and feelings that your audience goes through. And then you simply act those out and you put them on loudspeaker. You just put them on display. So like I have a meditation coach that's a client. And it's like, oh, you know what? Secretly, when people are meditating, they're thinking like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? And why is this so effing boring? And I wonder if I should get a pedicure. And so literally just like filming a video of her meditating, but then voicing over like what meditation is really like, and then voicing over those thoughts. That's so relatable to her audience of, females over 40 who are trying to build a meditation practice. So that's what I mean by like relatability content that I found to be a really great that a lot of people don't do very well.
I like that. Well, especially for TikTok. That's like the bread and butter of TikTok is kind of edutainment. Well, especially it depends who you are. You could just be pure entertainment, but we're trying to be coaches on TikTok, I think, right? Like that's kind of like your niche is like help ADHD coaches make more money online and things like that and get people's attention. I like authority content, but I like edutainment. And I think you're right with the being more authentic and brainstorming different ideas of how to be more of your authentic self. I think it works. I mean, I like your TikToks. Your TikToks are badass. So everybody listening to the podcast, go check out Aron's TikTok. It's fun. It's all about ADHD and it's pure edutainment, as you said.
Yeah. Well, like what are your hacks or tactics? Like what are you thinking these days? What are you liking?
I've gone down the TikTok rabbit hole, and TikTok is awesome. So TikTok has changed though. So I feel like last year around March, when you really blew up, it was a lot easier to get attention. It was a lot easier. And it was because you were able to get onto the For You page. Cool thing about TikTok is the virability, right? Everybody likes TikTok. But the way that the algorithm works, it's kind of like when you throw like a pebble in the water, right? So you put out a piece of video content and then it spreads out to a certain amount of people. That certain amount of people watches the video. It's all about watch time, engagement, basically people staying on the platform, right? And then if it does well for that first little pebble, it'll spread out to a bigger pond and a bigger pond and a bigger pond. So the new things that I'm discovering on TikTok are so I've got 5 of them actually, but the weirdest one is that if you start multiple channels, right? So let's say like you have your main channel, that's where you're just going to put out all your content. You're going to be testing stuff. You're going to just do everything that you possibly can. But once you kind of get like shadow banned or you're not getting enough traction with that one, you want to download all the best videos that you did on your TikTok, right? And then you create like 4 other channels or 5 or whatever other channels that are brand new. And you just put out your best content, right? But you're going to put the same video out on each one of these different platforms. And you're going to find that one of them or 2 of them are going to get way more views than the other channels. So once you find the one that gets way more views, you're going to delete all the ones that do poorly. And you're just going to go with that channel, right? So that's how you're going to go. And it's because when you put out videos on certain platforms or certain accounts, you'll be throwing pebbles into different crowds of audiences. And there's going to be one of those channels is going to actually hit a crowd of audience that really views your content and really likes it, right? So this is how you can have multiple TikToks, and you're just going to be putting out old videos that you did from your main account that did really well. And you're going to see if they're still performing really well. So that's like a really weird, really strange hack that you can do. But once you have a niche like you do, like it's perfect because now you're going to have a couple different accounts and you're going to have one that just explodes. And that's the one that you're going to keep writing up until it gets shadow banned again or something like that. Now you don't want to do this.
So Robert, I love that. Right. And I can totally see your background in like internet marketing, thinking how like we A/B test, right? You got like A, B, C, D, like you're running all this. I love it. Like, I love that sort of strategic thinking. And like, so that like just is music to my ears. What variables are you controlling for? So when you've got those 5 platforms, when you've got those 5 accounts or 4 accounts, are you posting all the videos at the same time and like you're keeping the time and the content the same, or are you using the different, if so, what's the difference between the 4 accounts, or are you using the different accounts as a way to just randomly kind of test the videos at different times and see who you happen to reach?
No, so you're just finding a new fresh account to blow up, essentially, right? So you got that 30,000, right? When that back in the day, and you were like, holy shit, yo, this is awesome. Like, so you can recreate that essentially by just putting out content that is already working really well or has done very well in the past, right? So this is just like if you're gonna, with ADDHD, this is not the best plan, but you're gonna have those you're gonna have those other accounts, right? And you're gonna post at the same time every day. So you're gonna set like 3 alarms on your phone. So it's gonna be like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And once you figure out what of those times really hits, as well as which of those accounts really hits, then you're just gonna post at that time on that account, and you're gonna repeat that kind of thing. And you're kind of like split testing in a sense, like you were talking about. And what happens is once that channel blows up, then you're going to go into the next phase, which is where you're just going to go live on that channel. So you're going to go live on the channels that are doing really well, like a lot. Like that's the thing that nobody wants to do, but it's the thing that TikTok is pushing really hard right now. Is if you go live on the channel that's doing really well, that has the best audience, that has the performing videos, that's how that channel is just going to absolutely blow up. And then you can go viral again. And when of a lot of people, when you go viral on TikTok, you make a lot of money, especially if you have a good offer or a lead magnet or whatever it is. So, I mean, you want to build a relationship with your audience, right? But when your account starts only getting like 200 views on some really good videos that you think is badass, I mean, it's a grind, and you got to have something that's going to light that fire back into your audience or get new eyeballs on your offer or start to see things. And it's also the power of TikTok. That's why TikTok is so badass, because you could just go viral and go on the For You page, and then you make a bunch of money, or you get a new bunch of clients, or, you're actually helping people, right? So you're going to be able to help more people when you do weird stuff like this. Okay. So, but those are just like the 2 main hacks, is like spam a couple accounts, delete the ones that do shitty, focus on the ones that do really well, and then just go live, and then keep reposting videos that do well. And you can kind of experiment with them. And then you can make on your main account is just for blasting out content that you make that you think is going to do really good. And then when something actually does really good, you take that video and you put it on these other accounts or whatever, and this is just kind of a way to snowball and go viral again on TikTok. The next one that I want to talk about is SEO on TikTok. So back in March, like when you were blowing up, I was selling for another coaching company that was absolutely millions of views on TikTok, and we were making just oodles of cash, and it was ridiculous. But that kind of slowed down. You can't get on the For You page. There's a lot more competition now. TikTok has kind of changed, right? It's changed from the viral platform to now it's the pay to promote your video and SEO kind of platform. So the way that you do TikTok SEO, well, what would it be like somebody would search for, in the search bar? Yeah. So it'd be like ADHD struggles. Why not? Well, just for the sake of the conversation. So what you would do then is you would say in the first sentence of the video would be like, do you struggle with ADHD, or what are your ADHD struggles? Okay. And then in the text that you actually type on the video. So I know you add captions to your videos, and that's fine. So when you say that, it's going to be there, but you also want to type the thing that you want to show up in the search bar in the text on the TikTok video, right? And then when you post the video, you also want to use the exact same phrase on the comment or whatever the hell that little box is, the thing. And then what happens is when you post that video, you're going to now rank for ADHD struggles. And it's crazy, but it's because the TikTok algorithm switched from paid and SEO. So it's a new way to go, because people are actually searching on TikTok for answers. Like we were talking about going down the rabbit hole and all these things. Like if you go to TikTok and you type something in, there's certain videos that pop up first, and it's because they did SEO on their little videos. I mean, you know what SEO is, right? I'm not joking. Right. Just saying. And that's a powerful thing. So then you combine those things, right? You start a bunch of weird accounts. You find ones that go really well. You start going really live on those channels, and then you start doing SEO on all those videos. And this is how you can be at the top of the TikTok algorithm. And these are out of the box ideas. Obviously, hooks, posting times, shaking your butt for the algorithm, like all that stuff is really important. Like keep putting out content and stuff. But this is the next phase, I feel like, of how to keep blowing up and kind of hack the algorithm a little bit. So I wanted to share that, and it was kind of fun. I was thinking about
it. No, it was awesome to hear it. And I got permission from Robert before we started recording that I could ask him some questions too. So it was awesome to hear. But I'm still not clear on these separate accounts. Is it purely, are you using the exact same hook and hashtags? Like, what is
I
it?
would
Are
do
you
no
purely,
hashtags.
well, but
No
what is
hashtags.
it that you're testing between the 4 accounts? So you take a video that you know performs well because you took it from your main account. So now and then you put it on your 4 burner accounts.
Right.
Are you purely just testing the dumb roulette luck of the algorithm that it's going to promote one more than another, and the people who happen to see it are just going to like it and it'll make it onto For You? Or are you doing any other, because you're doing it at the same time, you know, the same videos getting posted on all 4 of these burner accounts?
Right.
What are the variables that you're changing, or is it just purely algorithm roulette?
Well, you already know that the videos perform well, right? And the weird thing is that these accounts, sometimes when you start an account, it's shadow banned for no reason. I don't know why. I don't know the insides of their algorithm. I just know for a fact because I've tested this stupid stuff. And then there's other accounts that are not shadow banned that'll automatically just boom, will blow up and get thousands of views. So that's the thing that we're trying to find. We're trying to find a fresh account, I guess, is the thing. So instead of having a bunch of accounts that are all shadow banned, like one of them is going to perform better than all the other accounts. And then you just delete the burner accounts and you just go with the one that's doing really well. And the reason is, like I said at the beginning, it's like you're throwing a pebble into the audience and then it ripples out. And if it does really well in that first little containment thing, then it's going to go to more and more people. So that's why different accounts seem to do better, but I don't know why. Exactly. I don't know the exact thing. So what you're doing is you're putting out videos that have already performed well on your main channel. Okay. And you're kind of posting at the same times because you also want to find what time does the good channels that do well, they do the best, right? And then you blow that channel up, you get to put your link on there, and then you start going live on those channels as well. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, it kind of sucks. You know, it is what it is, but it's just like everything in business. Like if you really wanted to just like destroy the TikTok algorithm, and like, I mean, you can make a lot of money though, you know, like you've done it firsthand. Like if you do good on TikTok and everywhere else, you know, you get more eyeballs, you help more people, you grow your business. So it's kind of, it's worth an experiment is basically what
No, I love it. I love it. And then let me just give you 2 other hacks that I think are at least worth saying for your benefit and for any of your listeners, right? So 2 other hacks are, you know, one is while business accounts restrict you from being able to take advantage of all the popular music, you know, all the most popular music and some of those things, you can now have the option for people that's important to set up a business account and do a business registration so that you can get a link on your profile before you hit the 1,000 followers. So for people that are looking for having that earlier in the game, that's
new.
kind of new, and that's a good workaround. And then the second thing is, you know, Robert and I have been chatting all about TikTok. The reality is every other effing platform is trying to be TikTok. So those videos, like my team, they just repost them on, you know, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, whatever they are. Like, I don't even know, right? Like, and every platform their algorithms are favoring the TikTok videos because they're all trying to, you know, compete. And so really creating TikTok content and then repurposing it is like a very high leverage strategy to really take advantage of where all the platforms are focused.
Yeah, I'm actually making a bunch of money on Facebook from posting my TikToks on there. So it's pretty random. You can make up to like 35 grand a month. I don't get enough views to blow it up, but I make, you know, $1,000 a month from just stupid posts on Facebook. So, and YouTube Shorts. So yeah, you gotta syndicate the videos everywhere. So I don't know. Those were kind of the things, but I mean, you did it all organically. You were basically, you know, shooting from the hip, and then you found your niche, right? And you figured out how to make authority and edutainment content. And I agree. I think relating to your audience is important. It's like you can also blow up for like being clout or something like that. I feel like people, like, they always want something, you know, so if you keep a little secret in the back pocket, you know, or whatever, like these are the secrets to getting your interest, and then you get the curiosity, and then you get the click. I don't know. You can go down way more rabbit holes, but
yeah, you and I, we might need to do another chat in the future, because I only started sharing. I mean, I've got a number of others that, you know, we could compare notes.
I'd love to. Well, I'm going to run a bunch of weird TikTok experiments. So everybody listening and you as well, I'll keep you up to date on what's really working. So basically for your ADHD coaching, I think you have like a quiz or something like that people can do, or how does that work? Or was it a free course? It was a free course, right?
Here, what I've got, which I think will be super relevant, is basically just the ultimate TikTok guide for coaches, course creators, and content creators who have ADHD. So you don't have to be making ADHD themed content, but basically it's just got, here I'm looking at, it's got 12 ways to grow to 100,000 followers, a 5-step system to make viral videos without dancing, and my 13 winning plug and play hooks for more views every time. So it's just a free download, something like that. It's got some good value in there, and then you'd learn more about what I'm up to.
Perfect, man. So I got 2 more questions I'd like to ask that I ask everybody before I kind of let you go. But what are the best, before we get into those, what are the best ways for people to actually get in contact with you and to really like find you or connect with you online?
I mean, you can search hidden ADHD. I mean, I think just you click on the show notes. If we got the link to the TikTok guide, they could download that. That would be the best. But just Google hidden ADHD.
That's a cool name, though. I like that. I dig it. All right. So one of the questions that I ask everybody that kind of comes on the show is what motivates you? What really gets you going?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, me personally, this has actually been one of my biggest challenges in self-help and stuff is I'm not like, I like money, but I'm not directly motivated by material things. And I found that for myself and a lot of the clients I work with, a lot of ADHDers that I've worked with are just motivated like by the time freedom, right? Like we want something scalable. Like we don't want to work so damn hard, and we want the ability to like work when we want to work and not do stuff that we don't want to do. And so that's honestly my number one motivator is just the time freedom and the ability to do work that I don't hate.
Right. Just do what you love, basically, is what motivates
Yeah.
you. I like that, man. That's awesome. And then the other question I ask is like the keyword is impact, but what's one habit that you've found or done that really, really has had an impact on your life? Like you can actually see doing this one thing has really helped you.
Yeah. So I have a system that I teach my students called the daily one tough task. And the idea is basically to block out 30 minutes to 2 hours every day and just basically to get tough tasks done. And there's a lot of days where I'm not overly productive, but there's almost no days where I don't get something important done. And the important stuff is usually the tough stuff because that's the stuff that we tend to avoid. And so, rather than try to get 50 things done on your to-do list, like focus on the 1 to 3 really high impact things. And I do that every single day, and it keeps me, my business humming along, even when I have a lot of lazy days and, sign off at 2:00. And so that's what I would say.
So do one tough thing every day.
Exactly. And then once you get good at that, you can expand into 2 and 3 tough things.
Right.
But yeah, that's been life-changing.
I think, what is it, David Goggins? He's like, do one thing that sucks every day.
Oh man, nothing like reading or listening to Goggins. Like, I'm like, wow,
who's gonna carry the boats?
That dude is crazy. He's like he admits that like all the pain and stuff, like he enjoys it. Like, right. I don't know. I'm like, I totally respect you, and I'm probably like 180 degrees opposite from you. Like, it's like crazy reading his stuff.
Blood today or run to my break or whatever. All right, man. Well, Aron, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Do you have any kind of last thoughts before we wrap up, or anything you'd like to share?
No. I mean, I think the journey you and I have been on, right, just where we get to like build our own stuff, pursue our interests, even if they change, and we start 25 businesses, or we do all the jumps. Like it's so much more rewarding than the corporate life of just doing what you're told and kind of being at someone else's whim. And so I salute you for all the work you're doing to help people kind of set up their things for success. And I salute all the people that are either doing it or contemplating doing it, because it's a very courageous and life affirming thing to invest in yourself and your business.
I agree. I do have one thing I wanted to touch on. So you said something earlier that I thought was kind of interesting. Do you think there's a taboo or a stigma to being ADHD in the corporate world? Like, is it you're not allowed to talk about it? Like, I wouldn't know about anything, but is there a thing like
100%? Yeah. I mean,
Really?
well, because you got to figure, right? Like Gen X and the boomers are still holding all the executive positions. So you have to take into account your audience's views, right? And so they're your customers. They're the people who control your promotions, your salary, all those things. So, so if they're your target audience, they look at ADHD as, some problem they had with their kid, or some problem that their nephew or someone had, or that they heard on the internet. Like, they're just like, all right, it's like a learning disability. The people don't get anything done. So like this whole like neurodiversity, let me look for the benefit and not having everyone think the same way. And like, all that is new. So it's catching up, but yeah, it's not the it's risky at a minimum, with limited benefit to disclosing if you don't have to.
Yeah. Do you have any tips on navigating the corporate world with ADHD?
Yeah, I mean, it's not dissimilar to navigating a business with ADHD. Like, you just have to get good at assertively setting up, getting what you need, right? So like I needed time to work without colleagues interrupting me, my boss interrupting me, without instant message open, without all these things. So like I had to ask my boss, can I work on this thing? And like for 2 hours in another room without email and instant message, and I had to train my boss that was okay. But like, we just need to like make our own path and not be like, oh, well, the world won't let me do what I need to do. It's just like, figure out what works for you and then use your assertiveness skills, your sales skills, your persuasion skills, to make reality conform to what you need.
I think we're going to end on that note, man. That was a mic drop. So well, I appreciate everybody listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us some comments. This will be, everywhere, but if you're not listening to the podcast, give me some 5-star reviews. Check out the show notes if you want to connect more with Aron, and check out his TikTok. I highly recommend it. And everybody have a good day. Bye.